All right, so welcome to my talk, decoupling technique, sending, tracking, email with Amazon SES, SNS, SQS, and Drupal. It's quite a mouthful, and after I submitted my talk, I actually came up with a sexier title. So here it is, here's the sexier title, Roll Your Own ESP. Now ESP stands for, does anyone know what ESP stands for? Besides, what is it, extra sensory? It's not that. No? ESP stands for Email Service Provider. So if you're in the business of sending a lot of emails, you typically have your own. It's someone like a Bronto or a MailChimp or Constant Contact or Campaign Monitor and so on and so on. So those companies charge a lot for the various spectrum of deliverability and reporting that they offer you back. But what I'm going to show you through this presentation is how to do your own at a fraction of the cost. Sound good? So this is me. I'm Jason Purdy. I'm the IT manager and lead web developer from Journalistic. Journalistic is a publishing company, mostly trade publications for the food service industry. We also have a consumer publication for book collectors and an online-only publication for art collectors. So, before I get started, just let you know that the materials that I go over will be available through, I have a GitHub repository for the code samples that I have. The slideshow is a Google slideshow, the URL, which is here and right up here if you want to write that down. I'll post it on the Slack channel too. And so don't feel like you have to take a lot of notes. Just sit back and absorb it. So before we get started, I thought I'd talk about how we got here from the company perspective. So QSR and FSR, we send out 2 emails each month per publication. One email is a notification that the digital subscription is, or the digital edition is available for that particular issue. And then another email to go out to everyone that received the issue, print and digital, to let them know what the print advertisers were in that magazine, so that they can see the thumbnails of those ads in the print magazine, click on them to see the advertiser and follow up with that. Those go out to about 35,000 per publication per month, so 70,000 total emails that we send per month, and it spikes. So, you know, the digital editions for us, those go out to about 5,000 each once a month at the first of the month, and then the marketplace emails go out to about 30,000 subscribers each on around the 15th of the month. So we're actually going to be sending one out on Monday. So our first version of this is that we create a custom DRush command and to send the email through Amazon Simple Email Service. Simple Email Service limits you to 50 emails a second, which is a lot that you can pump out per second. But DRush had a hard time actually putting together the email and sending it through the API. So we then broke it up into a multi-threaded DRush command. And we divided it up into 8 threads to send the emails through each thread. And so that was sending it through DRush. And then through Simple Email Service, they have a feature that if you get a bounce or a delivery notification or a complaint, that they can post that to a webhook. And so then we set up a Drupal menu item so that that webhook was notified for each bounce or delivery or complaint. And then to add to that, when the email was delivered and the user opened the email or they clicked on the email, that also went back to Drupal through a menu item to record the open or the click, and then do whatever, a webhook, yeah, and then to do whatever with the user. So to either just record it as an open or to redirect the user to what it is they clicked on. So that didn't make Drupal very happy, especially when you're sending out those 30,000 emails. And so the server was not happy, it slowed down, and more importantly, our authenticated users were not happy. The editors they just weren't happy. They were like, well, let us know when you're going to do this, and then we have to coordinate like timing of that. So that's kind of like the impetus for this development. So things are better now. Now we have a very simple, single-threaded batch command, and I took a video capture the last time I posted this. I don't know if this is going to work, but this just gives you a sense of like the emails and how they go out. And so you can see here, it's kind of hard to make out, but it's sending to subscriber, and that's 550, 600, 700. It jumps by 50 or 100 or sometimes even 150, and they're just going. And then we have a Drupal cron to pull down the metrics from a service called Simple Queue service, and I'll explain more about that. And so then there's no server load. I mean, there's just that simple single batch that has its own load, but it's mitigated and easy to work around. And then also this Drupal cron just pulls down the notification from Amazon so that we can report back to our administrators about what the delivery metrics were, bounces and complaints and so on. So things are much better now.
It takes 10 minutes to send the 30,000.
Yeah, roughly. So now they are happy. So as I'm laying this use case, you might be asking like, well, I thought the name of this talk was decoupling. So how's this decoupling? And so a lot of times people will use decoupling to talk about decoupling the front end from the back end and having a JSON API on the back end to have a very fast React or JavaScript framework front end for the end user. But I'd like to extend that decoupling metaphor to taking some of this custom code out of Drupal as well. So we are on Drupal 7 right now, and we're kind of stuck on Drupal 7 because of this custom code, and it's hard to upgrade to Drupal 8. But if we had it into a separate system, or to reduce what the system actually is in Drupal, then it would be much easier to upgrade. So technical debt is one thing, and then just that server load that we were putting onto Drupal, because Drupal's really good about content management. Maybe not like sending a bunch of emails. That's not what it's known for. So let's take this decoupling metaphor and also look at our own custom code and get that in the proper places so that Drupal can shine where it needs to shine. So the main service I want to talk about is SES, which stands for Simple Email Service. You first would go to that service and set up a verified domain. And you can verify individual email addresses, but I would recommend that you verify the domain, because then you can use any email address inside that domain. So you can just come up with Bob or Mary or Receipt or whatever at that domain, and we'll go through. And when you verify a domain, what they do is they give you these text records and CNAMEs to set up in your DNS registrar. And once you do that, then you're verified. They just want to verify that you're the owner of that domain. The next service I want to talk about is SNS. It's kind of like an event listener system where you have a topic and then you can have things subscribed to that topic. So you can have webhooks, you can have email, you can have Lambda, which is a very small serverless infrastructure that Amazon has. And then you can also have SQS, which I'll talk about. So these are all the different things that you can have hooking up to SNS. And then when messages are posted to that topic, whatever you have subscribed is notified. So my warning is that our initial approach was incorrect. What we did is we set up a Lambda service that went to a DynamoDB. We kind of over-architected the situation. So when all those bounce notifications and opens and clicks and all that stuff went to the SNS, it went to Lambda, and then that also went to Dynamo. The problem is that we had a bottleneck with DynamoDB. DynamoDB, you have to set up with number of reads and writes per second that you're going to pay for, and that is like very specific to the cost. And so you want to have it like a very minimal cost, right? And with that cost, it's kind of pegged at that. I think it starts off with 5 reads and writes per second. But when we're sending out those 10,000 emails or 30,000 emails, it spikes. And so what happens is that DynamoDB, you can set it up to scale, but it takes a while for it to ramp up. And then while it's ramping up and spinning up, what it can handle, all these notifications are bouncing and getting lost. So that was not a good approach for us. So that was also a warning for anyone else that wants to tread there. Watch out. So what we ended up doing was using SQS, which is simple queue service. And what it doesn't have a scale up or scale down. You just set up a queue, and it can receive whatever, and it can scale to receive whatever at whatever rate you throw at it, and then you can pull it down on demand. So it's just queued messages. We're probably not using it like they would envisioned it, but with this use case, it's able to handle the traffic that we throw at it, and it's inexpensive. Speaking of inexpensive, you're probably saying, Jason, how much does this cost? All right. So SES charges you 10 cents per 1,000 emails. So for us, sending out those 70,000 emails is $7. SNS and SQS are free in that free tier for the first 1 million requests. So those are all free. So the cost for us is $7 a month for sending out 70,000 emails. It's not bad, right? It gets even better because if you can actually send the emails from an application hosted on EC2, then the first 68,000 emails are free. So then for us, we're only paying for 2,000. We were initially customers of Acquia, and Acquia was running their infrastructure on Amazon. So whenever we were doing this, we got that benefit. But we moved to Pantheon. They use Google Cloud, and so now we're paying the $7 versus the 20 cents. So $6.80. part of the cost, I guess, of moving hosting solution providers. But I mean, $6.80 is still not much.
So did you save money moving to Pantheon from?
Oh yeah. Acquia increased their rates on us, and so we're like, and they've been doing this every renewal cycle for us, and it got to the point where it's just we want to make a change. All right.
So the 680 just really was a drop.
Yeah. and email continues to be, like, for us, the most important marketing medium, right? Because everyone still, I mean, people will say email's dead, but email is not dead. I mean, it's like the way to get to someone's inbox, and they consume whatever you're sending to them so it's kind of on demand with them. And so you're hitting them at when they want to read your message. So it's very viable. And what's great,
They don't have to take any action to get it.
What's that?
They don't have to take any action to get it.
Yeah.
They don't have to come to your site.
Right. So it's a very compelling medium for us. All right, so let's get into some details. So obviously, first thing you want to do is set up an AWS account, right? And then you want to dive into the SES. I talked about verifying your domain. Once you do that, they're going to give you these DNS settings that you set up in your registrar. The additional thing I would say that you want to do is set up the mail from. Mail from is, if you don't set it up, when your user receives the email, it's going to be from AmazonSES.com, which may be fine, but you can give it your own branding. You can carry through your branding if you set up this mail from. So you just pick up a random subdomain that you're not using. So this is just a boutique URL that I created, Purdy.cool, because it's pretty cool. And so I picked a subdomain, email.purdy.cool. And so when you do that, they're going to give you like these MX records and SPF records to set up. And then once you do, this is an example of a screenshot from Gmail when I'm sending it through Amazon and the user receives it. So it's kind of a little schizophrenic to see because I'm sending it to myself, right? But you can see like right here, this is the important part. Mailed by, and it's email.purdy.cool. And it's signed by, and that's purdy.cool. And that's the DKIM setup that you did in the initial, like, those 2 screens ago. And then the mail by, that's that mail from URL. Both of those give a boost to the emails that you send to help it actually hit your user's inbox. Because a lot of times if it's marked as from a different domain, some people might see that as spam. So the more you can verify your identity, the better chances that it actually has to land in the inbox. All right, so then after you're done with SES and getting all that set up, then you go over to SNS. SNS is that event dispatcher that I talked about. So it's very easy. I just created this one. You just pop in a name at the bottom of the screen. It says create, and then you're done. Once you're done with that, then you want to go back to SES and create what's called a configuration set. When you create the configuration set, this is where SES is going to send all those notifications for the opens, the bounces, the complaints, the clicks, and it's all going to be tied to this configuration set. So when you're setting up the configuration set, you're going to select that SNS, and then you're going to choose that topic you just created in SNS, right? And then you can select all these different event types that you want sent to your topic. Does that make sense? All right. The other thing that I'm going to point out is that, and I don't know if my next slide talks about this. Okay. So I created another subdomain called app.purdy.cool. And so you can also use your own subdomain. So what happens is when you send that email through Amazon, Amazon's going to alter the source of that email to put in like an open tracking pixel, like a little 1x1 pixel, and that notifies that the user has opened the email. That URL of that pixel is going to be awstrack.com. But if you provide your own subdomain, it's actually going to be like, for us, or for that example, it's like app.purdy.cool instead of aws.track.com. And that again helps, just boost and carry through that brand identity to help people not flag the spam.
So you have a pixel on your site?
No, Amazon still does it. What happens is when you set up the subdomain, they're going to give you a CNAME record that just redirects to awstrack.com.
Okay.
So it'll resolve to whatever, they're still handling the open tracking and the click tracking, but it's actually, when the user hovers over that URL, instead of them seeing awstrack.com, they're going to see app.purdy.cool.
The clicking, do they change the URLs?
Yeah. So that's that. And then, these don't require any special setup. The send, reject, delivery, bounce, and complaint. Those are all like going to go through SNS. You don't have to set up any domains or anything like that. But the click and the open are using like the own subdomain. And then the rendering failure you can do. I haven't had a problem with that, but that would take some extra work if you were sending a template and there was like some sort of programmatic error in the variables that you were sending to your template and they couldn't render your template. Then that would also notify you so that you could know like something's wrong. So I'm kind of lazy and I haven't done that, but that's also an option there. And then after you're done with that, with setting up this destination, you're going to come back and see that your configuration set is all set. So you can see I did set up that domain for the click tracking part, click and open tracking, and just a summary of all the things that are set up. All right. So then we're going to go over to SQS, which is Simple Queue Service. Again, it's very simple to set up, just like SNS. You just give it a name. So I just gave it a name of SES events, and there's a screen at the bottom to click Create Queue. And there's some options here, but I just went with the defaults. Like I said, there are probably more sound use cases of using SQS, but for us, we just wanted a place to dump it in that we're going to process later, and for it to be able to handle the scale. All right, after it's set up, the next thing you want to do, this is what SQS looks like. So I've created the SES events, and then you will want to add permission for the SNS topic to be able to post to this SQS. And so what you want to do is, I think, let me go back here. I have a slide that points to it, but when you create this event, you're going to say everybody can post, send a message to this queue, as long as the source ARN, which is Amazon's resource network identifier, equals this, and that's the ARN of the SES events SNS topic that I created. And then before you go, you'll want to go to the details. So what I was just showing you was the permissions tab. You will want to go to the details to copy this ARN value right here of the SQS queue. Because what you're going to do is you're going to subscribe SQS to your SNS. Remember how I talked about how you can subscribe different things to SNS? So email, webhooks, and so on. You can also subscribe to this SQS. So what you need, though, is you need this ARN value from the SQS. And then you're going to go back to the SNS to hook up the SQS queue. And the way you do that, this is SNS screenshot. And you're going to click on Create Subscription. And then you're going to paste, you're going to choose SQS as the protocol, and you're going to paste that endpoint right there. And then create subscription. And you're going to see a screen like this. Typically, when you hook things up to an SNS, you have to verify that you own it. So for example, if you hook up email, they're going to send an email to that email address that you hook up and say, hey, do you really want to receive all these notifications from this topic? And you have to click a link in that email to say, yes, I really mean that, which is great for debugging purposes, so you can see what kind of messages are coming through. But with SQS, what's nice is that Amazon already knows you own that SQS queue that you set up, so you want to go through that verification purpose. All right? So you're confirmed and you're good to go on that. All right, so next thing I wanted to show you is email templates. And for that, I'm going to dive into some code here. And I'm going to show you an example of, oops. How's that? All right, this is an example of the actual e-letter. I just grabbed this from Litmus, just as a sample e-letter. And what I want to point out here is that there are some PHP variables. So for example, I think I have a pre-header right here. I have a header right here. I have a loop of articles right here. And for each loop of articles, I have the image URL and subhead and like the URL to read more. And then this email is sent to and whatever the email address is. So, and copyright year. By the way, let me just say, this has saved me a lot of headache. If you can, whenever you think about it, whenever you have boilerplates to go on your site or your emails, try to make the year dynamic. Because it'll be like April of one year, and I'll get an email from my boss, and it's like forwarded, and it'll say like, hey, why haven't you updated this copyright year of since 2008? I'm like, okay. So anyway, and then if you do this, you never have to think about that. And your boss thinks you're just on top of it all the time. It's great.
January 1st it comes up.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm just like on it. That's what I do. Like I celebrate the opening of the new year, and then I hop on and change all the copyright years. All right. Oops, I accidentally went to my hot corner. Sorry. All right. So that was PHP code. So, but you can't take that into Amazon's SES system. Now, Amazon SES has ability to set up email templates, but they use the handlebars syntax. So what I did is I wrote a simple little convert script to take all those PHP tags and convert them to handlebar syntax. And then put together this JSON data and encode it so that it looks something like this. And that's what Amazon expects to set up with their email templates. So this is just a regular file. And so then with the file, I'll go back to my presentation. There's an AWS CLI, command line interface. So you can download it to your Mac or your Windows and install it. And then you verify your credentials with AWS. And once you're there, you can do anything that you want. So AWS has an SES category, and then they have a create template and an update template, and then you give it like a CLI input JSON, and then the path to the JSON file that script that you saved from that script output. Make sense? All right. So then once you do that, you're ready to play with power. All right. Before we send emails, I would like to point out that SES has what they call simulator addresses. So these are a set of addresses that you can email to without actually emailing out. So it's a way for you to test the system and your setup before actually sending to real people. So each of those are named appropriately. So bounce, out of the office, complaint and suppression list, and success. When you email them, they will do whatever they're labeled. So a success will trigger a delivery notification to your SNS, and then your SNS will dispatch that to whoever subscribed to it, right? So then, and the bounce and out of the office. The one thing I will point out, when you're dealing with bounce and out of the office, you will want to be very careful about handling bounces, because bounces are categorized into what they call permanent and transient. Permanent bounces mean that the email address is no longer valid. There's maybe a typo in the email address, or the person's moved on, no longer there, whatever. In that case, that's safe to purge from your own system, right? A transient bounce is like a mailbox is full, or someone's out of the office and has a vacation auto response. So in that case, that person is a legitimate person that you could email later, right? When they've gone through and cleaned out their inbox or come back from vacation. So you don't necessarily want to remove those people from your list. And then a complaint simulates if someone marks something as spam from their inbox. And if that happens, you should remove those people from your emails list as well. And suppression list. So Amazon has its own suppression list. So if they notice, like if someone marks it as a complaint, or if it's a hard bounce, they have their own suppression list. So if you try to email them again, Amazon's going to say, hey,
we've suppressed
it. And you can also add people to Amazon's suppression list as well. I will say that Amazon's suppression list, I believe, is temporary. So like after a week or some amount of time, they purge their own suppression list. So it is possible to email the same person again like a week later. And Amazon won't stop that, but then you will have to deal with either that complaint or that bounce again. What?
They get suppressed for another week.
Yeah, exactly. What's nice about these simulator addresses, other than testing purposes, is that they do not affect your they do not affect your reliability or your reputation, I should say. They do cost, so they are factored into that 10 cents per thousand, but they don't affect your reputation like they would if you were sending to real people. All right, so now let's look at sending email code. And go back here and show you what this looks like. So first off, I set up some template data, and pre-header, header, the year, and then a loop of an array of articles. And for each article, I have an image URL, an alt, a title, subhead, and a URL. And those are template variables that will be pre-populated into the template. And these are template variables that are common across all users, right? So every user is going to get the same set of articles and the copyright year and the pre-header and header, right? But you can have user-specific template variables. I'm going to show you how to do that. But these are the common ones. Then I have an array of recipients. So I have my two kind of internal testing accounts, and then I have like 4 bounce out of the office complaint success.
So that recipients list could be, is when you send the real email, it's got 30,000 people or?
Yeah. So in our use case, we have a database handle, or I'm sorry, we're using a Drupal batch. So we create a bunch of operations, right? So each operation is sending to 50, right, exactly. And so the 30,000 is broken up into chunks of 50. All right, and then we have this data structure for the email itself. So this configuration set name is the name that we set up. Remember that configuration set that we created? That's the name of that plugs in there. The source is the from address. You can also set up a reply to address. I would recommend having like the source be a not your own personal inbox, because then you will start to get also like all those bounce messages yourself. So you can set up like a just a do not reply or something like that, or set it up to a mailbox you're not going to get hit with. But then have a reply to address of someone that's actually legitimate, right? And then default tags is what we use. Right there it says SID and the value of 0. That's a default. But these tags allow you to use identifiers for a particular user. So for us, what we would use is our database ID, row ID for that. And then default template data is a JSON encode of the template data variable that I showed you at the top. And then an empty array of destinations, and then the template, which is the roll your own ESP sample. That's the template that we've created and uploaded into through that CLI. So that's the data structure for that. And then I loop through the recipients. So this would be the batch operation or the database handle, the 30,000. So for each recipient, I'm going to set up a destination to append it to the destinations array. And so the to address would go there. The replacement tag, I would change the SID to this database record that I created. And then I could have a replacement template data that's specific for that user. So in this case, at the bottom of my email, I say that this email was sent to X, which is also highly recommended because if you ever get like a reply to or a forward, a spam report or something like that, you can actually see who it was actually sent to in the body of the email versus a redacted header that you have no idea like who this is, right? So highly recommend that. Then it's just setting up your SES client, and they have an API called send bulk templated email, and you call it with that email data structure with your template data, your recipients, all that stuff, and it goes out in 50 per second. So it's great. And then you can see the statuses, and when you get an array of statuses, when you get the status result, it gives you a message ID from Amazon that you can also record in your database. That gives you a great way to follow up or tie it to the original record. So for us, what we would do is we would, when we're going through this recipients, we create our database row, And I'm going to talk about a database schema that we use that I think is pretty cool. And use that database insert ID as the ID here for SID. And then when we're going through here, we're going to go through these statuses. And for each status, we're going to update that database record with the Amazon message ID. So then later on, when we're getting these notifications from SNS, we can tie it back to that database record to know, like, that specific user opened or clicked or whatever on that email. All right. So once you got all that set up, you're ready to kick off the training wheels, right? So when you first set up your SES account, they're going to say, okay, you can only send 2 emails per day, 1 email a second, and you can only send it to the simulator addresses or addresses that you verify. So you have to go through this email addresses to add an email address. So like when you're first setting this up, you would add your own email address, verify it, and you have to click on the link that they send, and then that's verified, and then you can send email to that as your tests. All right. But once you're ready to kick off those training wheels, all you have to do is click on this link to request this increased sending limits. And when you do that, you go to an Amazon support form that says, okay, tell us about your use case, what you're requesting an increase to, whatever. And so I have wrote down what I sent, because I sent something very basic, right? I said, I'd like to move out of the sandbox to send some legitimate emails. And I was thinking they were just going to ask for more legitimate explanations of all that stuff. Because I want to see, like, okay, I'm just going to go in with the least common denominator, see what happens. 14 hours later, I was verified, and my limit was increased to 100,000 emails per day and 50 emails a second. So it doesn't take much to get out of the sandbox. It's just fill out that form, click submit, you're done. That's my perspective anyway. But all that said, they do monitor your performance. So if you abuse this, so you want to watch your metrics. And so this is what this is our work account. And so you can see, like, this 40,000 emails on the 15th, that's that marketplace email that we sent. And so when that goes out, the danger zone is you don't want to get like 5–10% bounce rates. Anything above 10, they're going to
flag.
Yeah. Well, not just flag you, they'll shut you down. They'll limit your sending capabilities. So you will want to watch your bounces and then also your complaints there too. And they have this thing called a reputation dashboard on the left side. When you click on that, you see this report right here. And it's an explanation of, like, okay, over the last X number of days in these emails, your bounce rate's this. We went below 5, anything above 10, risk of sending loss. And then same thing for complaint. So theirs is 0.1 for complaint, and anything above 0.5 risk of loss. So we had some very bad hiccups the first time because when we first sent the marketplace email, the users were not expecting it, and so they were like, "What's this? I'm going to mark it as spam." And so we got a high complaint rate, and I think also we were sending it to all of our recipients, and some of these people we hadn't emailed in over a year, and they've moved on, so the bounce rate was also high. So what happened in that case is Amazon puts you on a probation, and they say, okay, we're going to watch you over the next X number of emails, and if it continues to be like this, then you're going to risk this pause or not being able to send email. When you get those emails, you can then go back to them and say, okay, well, here's the systems that we put into place, which is what I've kind of outlined here with it, because we were just sending them. We didn't have any of this back end, data collection, all this stuff. But we put all this together now so that we can have the system automatically keep our lists clean. And that's why you see, like, our bounce rates are like great and our complaint rate is great, just because our lists are automatically sanitized as we send emails. All right. So that's great. So now we need to talk a little bit about SQS. And so what do those messages look like when those are coming through? And this is an example. I don't know how this looks. So this word right here says open. So this is an example of an SQS message. So in SQS, they have a very rough UI that you can use to debug and just see that it's working. And you can open it and look at messages like this, but it's very hard to actually work with. And so you can, I recommend writing code that will pull things down from SQS. And so we're going to talk about that. Yes, now. All right. I'm going to close these. This is our code to pull down messages. You can only pull down 10 messages at a time, which is kind of weird, but it's very fast. So it takes us less than a minute to pull down the 14,000 emails from sending out our marketplace email, for example. And so you're going to go through this list. You have to give it the URL. That's there's a property in SQS to get that URL. I think I save it as a environment variable. And then you're going to say, okay, here's the queue URL. I want to get, well, first off, you get an approximate number of messages, because if there aren't any messages, you don't want to waste time, right? So if there are some, then what you're going to do is loop through those 10 at a time. And then what we do is we get the body of the message, and then we JSON decode that. And then we look at the type of the message there, and we switch it. So here are all the different types of message types that we see. So it was sent. We already know that it was sent too from our end, but we get a send notification as well. But there's also a delivery notification or a bounce notification. There's a complaint notification, and then a click and an open notification. And what we do is we do a stir to time on the timestamp value, and that gives us that epoch, and then we use that epoch to update the database row. But this is just a very simple utility script, and what it does is it just puts together some statistics of like, okay, I processed these messages, there were X number of sends, deliveries, bounces, all that stuff. All right.
So it updates your database and prints out somewhere.
Yeah, so in the earlier in the presentation, there was a where is it? Very early in the presentation. There, right there. So as we're getting those events back from SQS, we're able to aggregate that for our administrators and tell them, okay, X number of opens, X number of deliveries, bounces, all that stuff.
So that goes and gets those messages, and then it updates your database. Are those messages remaining on the server?
No, that's a good question. So
From the server, so now that report's generated from the database, right?
right. But you do want to keep track of the ones that you were able to process and tell SQS to delete those messages once you've already handled them, because you don't want to re-handle them. And then also for us, our SQS queue just is a dumping ground for all of our publications, like QSR and the FSR, so everything comes into that queue. And so we don't want to delete things from QSR if we're handling FSR and vice versa. So we're very specific about, okay, well, these are the messages that we handled that are QSR specific, and so delete those, but leave the rest in the queue. All right?
How often are you running this?
It's a cron job, so it runs every hour.
Every hour?
Yeah. And it goes pretty quick. All right. So here's what our database looks like. So we have we have an ID that's just automatic, and this is for the marketplace email. And then we can tell, okay, these are specific to the issues. So that helps us bring it back to, okay, this is the July 2019 edition of the marketplace. But these are the things that you would be interested in. So when we are actually sending it, we update that with the epoch. If we get when we go through those status responses from SES, if SES rejected it, because sometimes the user gives us an invalid password, and then SES can tell us that right away. We'll mark it as invalid there too. And then we'll use that, use a module hook, invoke all, to let the rest of our systems know that that's a bad email address and to do whatever with it. And then delivered, all of these get updated with the epochs from those SQS timestamps, right? And then the message ID is what we also update with the AWS. It looks like this huge GUID almost. All right. All right. I am running out of time. Yeah, I'm almost done. So another mailer option I just want to go over or just highlight is SendGrid. We played around with it a little bit. It has webhook support. What's cool about SendGrid is that you can send 1,000 emails a second. So if you want the need for speed, SendGrid is pretty cool too. And you could have it hook into Amazon SES as well. Hooking up into SQS through setting up like an API gateway to do that. All right, code, slides, email address, if you want to follow up. And then I'll post the slides on Slack, and then I have business cards up here if you want. Thank you so much. All right, any questions?